because to help round out the show here, we've got two more segments. We've got this one and then Curveball of the Week, which Grant has. But Mount Rushmore, we're going to do, and this is a little bit oxymoronic, I think, because, when you think of NDSU, you don't think of individual players. That's not what the program is based off of. It is based off of the team and the team's success. But we don't care. We're going to do it anyways. We're going to do the Mount Rushmore of NDSU football players. So, Zach, since you are our guest and we appreciate you coming on, it's always fun to have you on and enjoy our conversations. We're going to the floor is yours for your Mount Rushmore of NDSU football players.
Well, fellas, you've been such gracious hosts, and I apologize for the beatdown that I'm about to put on you. A lot of my stuff is swayed towards offensive players. I was an offensive player, and a lot of great defensive players, but I think offense is, like you mentioned, the side of the ball that does get to let the individual shine a little bit. And if we're talking about individual shine, accolades, leadership, impact on the program, I don't know how you go with anyone else other than number 12, Easton Stick. That's my 1-1.
You're 1-1, okay. All right. And this is just we're not doing like a snake draft or anything like that. This is all just our own personal one. So if you want to go name your other three, go right ahead.
Okay. Good, because I prepared for like a snake draft, and like I have 25 guys on the board just because I was worried I'd have to pick and be strategic.
You did your homework. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I was sitting at work today and I wanted to do anything else. My second pick, a guy I was fortunate enough to play with and still am good friends with today. I have to go with Mr. Drake and a Moose himself, Cordell Volson. So Sticky and Cordell. I really think we're going to look in 30 years and Cordell is like the guy that we advertise as Bison Brand. He is Mr. Bison. And like I said, very, very fortunate to have been around him and lucky enough to call him a friend. Number 3, I have to take the guy that was genuinely the most dangerous human as far as impact on the game to play on that side of the ball, in my opinion. Marcus Williams. It was just an entire side of the field was shut down. And then, he shuts you down for 3 plays and he drops back to receive the punt and he'll house that on your head too. Just an absolute weapon. And I mean, 6'2", 200 pounds, like a huge corner by NDSU standards, was an NFL guy, one of the best athletes. And like I said, you just go watch that U of M last play of the half when they're playing at TCF, when Colton Hegel just pitches it back and bounces perfectly, and Marcus is off to the races. I think he definitely deserves to be chiseled into stone. This is where things get difficult. Because if I could have a Mount Rushmore with 10 guys on it, I would. But I'll save them for my honorable mentions. They get the plaque at the base of Mount Rushmore. I keep going back and forth now. I think I'm going to take Mike Favor, one of the only NDSU players to be in the National College Football Hall of Fame. Helped coin the term the Rams, Sam's Rams. Basically was part of setting every tradition that came along with being an offensive lineman at NDSU. He was a center. He wore 57, so I looked up to him a bunch. And I think he's a guy that, like Cordell, is going to be on the hallways of the tunnel of the entrance for eternity.
Oh, great choices. The Mike Favor one, that is a very underrated one. I did not think of here, so I might have to reconfigure my Mount Rushmore. But have you read Ed Kolpak's book, Jeff's dad's book about the history of the Bison? It goes back from like 64 to like 89 or something like that. Have you gotten a chance to read that yet?
Yeah, that's those might be the most fascinating years, especially because
yes,
that is just lore to me, and even lore to my dad, who like eat, slept, and bled green and gold. that's a little bit out of his age range, but still guys that like he grew up watching playing and heard the stories about. And like I said, those are the guys that legitimately laid the foundation, these baby steps that got us to where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was for me here is number one, I will I gotta go with the pride of Oaks, North Dakota. He's a made member in Bill's Mafia. Really the kind of when you think of NDSU, you think of this guy. It's Phil Hansen.
Yep.
Was the best player in the Division II era on that 90 team. He was the defensive player of the year. Showed up from Oaks, never lifted a weight, was farm strong, but then got in the weight room, became weight room strong as well, and then all of a sudden he ends up having an 11-year career in the NFL, virtually unblockable. Phil Hansen, excuse me, is on number one, is my first one. And number two, I think you can't have a list without Easton Stick. 3 national titles, the winningest player in NDSU history and in FCS history. Comes in, steps in for Carson Wentz, goes undefeated 8-0 that year, and then has to take a step out for the national title game, and then they lose in the semis the next year, and then they go win back-to-back national titles. Easton Stick now having a good career for Zach's Los Angeles Chargers.
I think he made himself some money this preseason. I'm very excited for him going into next year. By the way, I just had to jump in about Stick. I don't think it can be overstated of how dominant of a football player he was. It was almost like Steph Curry level, Mahomes level, not that level of echelon of talent, but the fact that every time they are executing a play, you think it's going to go in their favor. You never saw like bad decision interceptions from Stick. You never saw balls on the ground. You never saw the wrong read. Everything was perfect, basically from the time I got there to the time he was gone, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. And I remember in my dorm my freshman year, I had one of my suite mates was from Omaha, and he was saying like he's the next guy. He's going to back up Carson. And then when Bull left, it was like, I bet I wouldn't be shocked if he transfers, but he stuck it out, and now he is in the discussion for the greatest Bison of in history, and he's on 2 of our 3. We will see if he makes our 3rd here. No pressure, Grant. But number 3, I think you got to go with, and this might be controversial, but Brock Jensen. He was not the most by far not the most talented quarterback that ever played for NDSU, but he had all those intangibles. He would, gritty performances. You look back to the 2011 game against Georgia Southern, his flu game, runs 55 yards to the house to seal the victory. The next year, yeah,
the turf toe,
and then the next year runs QB power. The drive against Kansas State, 3-0, or yeah, essentially. Well, technically, no, he'd be 4-0 against Division I FBS teams. Two of the 3 that he dominated. The other one, I guess, he was the backup in, but really got NDSU on the trajectory. Won them their first FCS national titles. Brock Jensen's my 3rd, and then my 4th.
Right-handed Tim Tebow, baby.
Yep. That was I wasn't gonna say it because we already had our discussion about Tim Tebow, but that's kind of what you think of when you thought of Brock Jensen, a tremendous leader, a selfless leader, was gonna put the team on his back and do whatever it took to win. And my last one is we're going back to the 80s. We're going back to what started NDSU's run in the 80s. We're going with Jeff Bentram. Showed up as a freshman, was the starting quarterback from day one, led them to, I believe, 2 national titles. They lost on like a 58-yard field goal in the 3rd, which would have won them, or they lost on a 58-yard field goal on the last play of the game. solidified ran the veer to perfection and paved the Harlan Hill Award winner as well. And that's why Jeff Benstrom is on my Mount Rushmore. So I got Phil Hansen, Easton Stick, Brock Jensen, Jeff Benstrom.
Jeez, you just give the shine to the guys that already get it. You're just a quarterback.
I know. Yep.
Well, so we're not wasting anyone's time. And if you guys are wondering, it will be 3 for 3 on Easton Stick. Because Dylan, actually, when you texted me that this morning, Easton was the first name that came into my mind.
Yep.
Like you said, two national championships as a starter, and in 2015 coming in after Carson broke his wrist, fractured his wrist, and it looked like a well-oiled machine that he didn't even need to play in that national title game. So, for all I'm considered, Easton's got 3 of them, and just to still have a very, very good career in the NFL as a backup right now, still be in it. You can't say enough. And the other player I thought of, Dylan, again, I'm dating myself here, but someone I share a first name with, Grant Olson. Was it that 26 tackle game against Wofford?
29. Don't short him.
Or 29. Okay, just incredible. He was all over the field. Just a leader of your defense. You know what? When you think of the best defenses of all time, you have someone at that middle linebacker spot, and that's just who Grant was. And that was my first year seeing it live, seeing in person. Just like, this dude is flying all over the place. Mm-hmm. He's got to be up there. And then
that's a good pick.
We'll give a little love here to the offensive linemen, guys. How about Billy Turner? We talked about when Marcus Williams is on the field, Zach, how you could shut down one side of the defense. Well, when Billy was on the field, you didn't have to worry about sending help that man's way.
Yeah.
He could shut a guy down, and how dominant those offensive linemen were. From 2011 to 2014, and not shortchanging any other group, but especially those teams right there. He was just the mainstay, and to this day, the biggest person I've seen in person. You see them walking around campus with a 4XL sweatshirt on. It's just like, this is a mountain of a man right here. So we're gonna go Billy Turner, and then my last one here. We're gonna go away from the players, and I'm gonna go with the coach. I'm gonna go with Coach Kleiman. Being there for those first 2 national titles as defensive coordinator, or first 3, and then coming in, taking over a program that was already at the highest level, and to take it even higher than what we thought humanly possible. Sure, he leaves to go to Kansas State in 2019, but that 19 team was just so dominant too. He built that up, and just what he did as head coach to, like I said, keep the program where it was and somehow take it to a higher level. I think I've got to give some credit to Coach Kleiman there. So, Easton Stick, Grant Olson, Billy Turner, and then Coach Kleiman.
I like that 4. I think the coach Mount Rushmore, if one spot was reserved for a coach, I think it would be a very interesting discussion to have on Twitter. A lot of it would be era related, but you'd hear a lot of arguments about how, honestly, I think Coach Bowl is in the discussion of having a statue built in front of the dome for him one day, for how instrumental he was in everything. And then obviously, if Coach Entz has another good year and another title, that's a guy that we're looking at like, hey, that resume stacks up pretty well to everybody else. So, and then obviously you look at Rock, who was just back in the program here in the last few weeks at fall camp. I thought that was pretty cool. He was handing out a scholarship. There's a lot of names in that all-time coaching discussion. So you might have started a NDSU Twitter war here. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is we will. I might have to share that. I'm a part of a few groups on Facebook. I might have to share this to the Bison Nation Facebook page and see what they think here. I think that'll stir up some discussion. If we're going honorable mentions, like we said, it's realistically we shouldn't be doing a list of players of Mount Rushmore because there's so many, and it's never been about one player. It's about the strength of the bison is the herd, the strength of the herd is the bison. But that's what the internet's for, is to have these fun discussions. So, honorable mentions, I think there has to be some type of criteria, because obviously Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, they have to be on it, but they just didn't have the numbers or the playing time compared to the Jensens, the Easton Sticks, or the Bentrams. Chris Simdorm is obviously going to be on that list. Tony Satter. I'm trying to think here. Who is the running back with Simdorm? And the name's escaping me, but and it shouldn't, but it is. And then Tyrone Braxton on that list. Going back to the 60s, you said Mike Favor. Lamar Gordon. Lamar Gordon should probably be on that list. Kyle Steffes.
Probably the best running back to ever play here.
Yes, and that's saying something.
Mm-hmm. Just my bias comes through in my honorable mentions. Not bias, because they're incredible players in their own right. John Crockett was absolute electricity every time he touched the football. Tyler Roll, my guy, West Fargo Packer, again, just like a guy that was a meatball running through faces, just a guy that was incredible to watch. I have to throw in the end zone stalker, Steve Walker. He was awesome. Just a guy who wasn't one of these freak athletes, but definitely paved the way. If that team in 07 would have been playoff eligible, I think we would have been starting that dynasty that year. Have to throw in C. Duds, Christian Dudzik, DJ McNorton, Ben Ellefson. I have a long honorable mention list, but I want to give these guys credit. Kyle Emanuel, I put Trey on there. Rob Hunt, Tanner Volson, two of the only Remington winners in the history of NDSU football, along with Joe Lund, who also won it. Lamar Gordon, as we mentioned. Somebody who is near and dear to my heart, Ty Brooks, was just a guy that, you didn't know if he was going to say something that was going to get him canceled or if he was going to run an 80-yard house call. But either way, you were entertained. Pat Paschal, I think Christian Watson, as far as the most talented receiver in the history of the program, has to be talked about. Derek Tuska, Joe Mays, and Ramon Humber, I know need their shouts. Funny story about Joe Mays is Coach Kramer made him stop doing bicep curls because they'd have to cut the arms on the sleeves on the jerseys so much. He would literally grow inches into his biceps and couldn't fit in the jerseys. And they're almost cutting the whole sleeve off for him because his arms were so big. And then I have to shout out the specialists, punchers and kickers are people too. Ben LeCompte, as far as proficiency at his job, was one of the best of all time at NDSU.
Yeah. Chad Stark was the running back with Jeff Bentram. That's who I was thinking of.
Should have known that. That's bad by me.
It's okay. We all forgot it. So, we could go over to Mankato West, and there was a safety that played for them. He played in the NFL. I can't think of the guy's name.
Craig Dahl.
Craig Dahl. Yeah.
Craig Dahl.
Yep.
Craig Dahl. Super Bowl champion with the New York
Super
Giants.
Bowl champ, Craig Dahl.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 07 Giants.
Yep. I believe Ramon Humber got one too with the Patriots.
Yep, he did.
Good for him.
So, yeah, that was that's a heck of a list we got there, and we apologize if we missed some, but when you have so many great players cycle through there, you can't.
Dylan, I'll throw in
remember them all.
I'll throw in a receiver, from my early days at NDSU, Zach Vraw.
Yep.
From Rosemont here in Minnesota.
Oh, dude, just absolutely killing it in the ice cream game too. What a dude's a baller.
Yeah. Well, your early years, Grant, he was one of those guys that pre-COVID went to college for 6 years. He was there for all 3 of my years.
I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember. Did he start? Was it 2010, 2011? Or was it?
I think he was 2010.
It was 11.
Or maybe it was because he broke his collarbone. He broke his collarbone on his first, the first play of his freshman and sophomore years, or something like that.
Yeah, because you're like you said, felt like Zach was at school for 6 years.
Had some of the best plays in school history too. When he mossed that kid from Western Illinois, pulled it over his back.
I was in the corner for that one. I was in the corner there. If you watch the video, there's me jumping up, standing down, putting my hands up.
Zach Frost he got there in 2010. Was his first
2010,
year.
Okay. And since we're on the receiver train, Darius Shepard, RJ Erzendowski can be thrown in there as well.
Yeah, as far as big time plays that will go down in history, I don't know if you can argue from the receiver room about anyone more important than Erzendowski. Think about the Illinois State national championship, and then basically every other time that we needed a big play. And then I think about UNI homecoming in 2015, I believe.
2015, yep.
When Shep caught the wheel route in the corner of the end zone, that was unbelievable. And Shep, just genuinely one of the greatest humans I've ever met in my life. So also a Charger. We're living good right now. Need him to make the team, and we're rolling. Gonna beat those damn
that's
Chiefs.
right. Yeah, I agree.